Being an amazing product marketing leader doesn't happen by chance. It happens by habit. Product marketing certified leadership has been built on the back of decades worth of experience from some of the world's best known brands with one goal in mind: helping you be the best leader you can be. Crammed with real life case studies, over 12 hours worth of content, templates, exams, and more, this course is everything you need to lead with authority, confidence, influence, and innovation. Every piece of material within the 7 modules and 29 chapters has been vetted, tested, and approved by senior level product marketers from companies like Amazon, Uber, and HubSpot, serving up game-changing insights throughout. By the time you've wrapped up the final module, you'll be able to define what it takes to be a great product marketing leader, build and scale your team, understand how to successfully manage your existing team, use methods for leveraging data, know how to become the voice of the customer, understand how teams work cross-functionally, and improve your strategic thinking. The beauty of the course is you'll have the freedom to work your way through the modules at a pace to suit you. It's 100% self-paced. You'll even get lifetime access to the curriculum, paving the way for refresher sessions forevermore. Visit productmarketingalliance.com to get leadership certified and spearhead your journey to the top.
Hi everyone, thanks for coming to my talk on customer segmentation in complex B2B markets. So I will be your host. My name is Laura Varela and I'm coming to you from my home office in Chicago. I wish we could be meeting face to face. Hopefully this time next year, Product Marketing Alliance takes us somewhere sunny and we can all meet in person. But for now, here is another Zoom presentation. So a little bit about me and why I'm giving this talk today. I work at PayPal and I'm currently leading the charge on developing our global marketing strategy for our enterprise solutions along with my team. And a couple of years ago when I started at PayPal, the enterprise marketing team was sort of new. And so we started taking a look at all of our foundational materials and revamping them. And we realized that we had a really complex set of solutions and of customers, and that traditional segmentation really wasn't going to cut it. We weren't really targeting our messages enough for the right customers. So we decided to develop this dynamic customer lens framework that I'm going to introduce today. And I'm going to try to answer these 5 questions. So why do we use customer profiles? What is a complex B2B market? Why is segmentation more challenging in these complex markets? What is a dynamic customer lens framework? And how can I implement it so that it's actually used across the org? Because that's the trick with frameworks. You can build them, but they don't always get adopted. So why do we use customer profiles? So I'm sure I don't have to explain the value of customer segmentation to this group. As product marketers, it is our job to be the voice of the customer, and we've all used buyer profiles to some degree. But if we were in person, I'd ask to see a show of hands, and I'd ask all of you, how many of you actually use customer profiles consistently every day across all of your messaging? And I would bet that the numbers would be pretty low, just because I know how often we can build profiles and then forget about them because they're either too general or they're too complex, or maybe one team uses them, but everybody else in the org sort of does their own thing, and it's just not worth our time. And so I think that's unfortunate, right? I think there's huge utility to using profiles, and I think it's actually really necessary to good marketing. So if we take a look at this slide, this has been a really important concept for us to deliver on. We want to bridge the gap between what a customer needs and what actually motivates them to buy. And those can be 2 very, very different things. You can produce every product and feature and bell and whistle that a customer could ever ask for, but that doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to buy from you. So for us, it's really important to both understand solution needs and, solve for what motivates them, their mindset, to buy. And that's what makes really good marketing. Another great reason to use buyer profiles now more than ever is that 70% of the B2B buyer journey is complete before a buyer even reaches out to sales. 70%. So that means, they've completed their short lists of vendors, they've developed their own requirements that are very unique to their business. And B2B buyers are more sophisticated than ever, right? We have more millennials than ever who are decision makers now, with high expectations about how the buying process should be, the kinds of relevant content they should have access to, and they also expect a lot of relevancy and personalization to be built into their products. So, you have to be hyper relevant even before speaking with them or doing any discovery whatsoever. So it's not enough to have a great sales team and a lot of bespoke email messages. You really need to have strong marketing and information out there for them that is customized. So if you're not already doing serious work on your profiles and understanding your customers, I really hope you'll consider it. And hopefully the framework we show you today, or I show you today, is going to be helpful. So the other reason, that we use profiles is that there's benefits across the org. I think we really limit ourselves sometimes, or only marketing will use it, or sometimes just sales will develop their own profiles. But it's important to have everybody singing from the same songbook. So, not only does it make it more consistent, and do you have, a more unified message going out to market, but it's also really valuable just to gather all that information from so many different vantage points. So every single person from any of these departments that I have up here are going to have their own views about who our customers are, what their needs are, and they're going to have their own experiences and insights. When you develop these profiles, if you really find agreement and work together, you build institutional knowledge that is so valuable, and you really get information out of their heads and onto paper. And it's really, really valuable for the entire org just to see how everybody else is thinking. So so I'm a huge proponent. Okay. What is a complex B2B market? So to put it really simply, a complex B2B market has various buyer personas, various solutions, and various use cases to contend with. So I'll give you an example. I work on PayPal Enterprise Solutions. And so most of you probably think of PayPal as a digital wallet. Maybe Venmo, another one of our digital wallets. But we do so much more than the button, as we like to say. Enterprise Solutions basically is a SaaS set of solutions, a platform that provides everything a large enterprise could need to accept or make payments all around the world. That is a lot more complicated than it sounds. It's a highly complex technical sale, and there are a few different, reasons. So on the one hand, we have about 15 plus buyers and influencers on decision committees. And they can be from all different functions. They can be from technology or marketing or finance. We even have a lot of payments consultants that are advising our customers. So we have to message them all, individually and differently. We have hundreds of point solutions, and those are applicable across different channels, geographies, industries, and objectives in different ways. So literally, our solutions could power endless commerce scenarios, whether you're buying and selling online or offline, or you have cross-border transactions, or you're charging for subscriptions, or you're paying out sellers on your marketplace, and the list goes on and on and on. And then to add another wrinkle, there are, an endless number of permutations of all of these different solutions and use cases. So why is segmentation challenging in these complex markets? Let's look at specific examples here. Okay, so typically B2B businesses like ours are going to use profiles either at the individual buyer persona level, or they're going to profile actual businesses. So starting with personas, it's probably the most common way to segment. Typically, you would pick a lens, a customer lens to which through which to look at your customer. And the most common among these is the role, right? So the role would be the customer lens, and then you would develop profiles according to each key role for your business. So that could be a CTO, a CFO, a CMO, etc. And so there are several different, groupings of this, right? You could look at the functional lenses. So like we said, role, there could be a difference between role and expertise. For example, a role could be a CEO, but if the CEO comes with a marketing background or comes with a tech background, they're going to need a different set of messaging and have different concerns. You could look at their demographics, their age, career level, location. You could look at behavioral attitudes about loyalty, about existing relationships and user habits. And psychographics, so their personal motivators, fears, and aspirations. And then you have your business profiles. And so they're very different in a lot of ways, but similar in others. So again, you can look at them by function, understand what their industry is, or their expertise or core competency. Look at their firmographics, right? What is their size? Why does that matter? Because a $4 billion company has really different needs than a $400 million company. Their business model, their performance matters, right? And performance can change drastically. So, with all of the tough climate that we're in with COVID, we have industries and businesses that are doing extremely well. They're seeing meteoric growth because they're online retail, right? And then we have others that are really suffering, like travel. And so we have to have a very different set of messages for them, and they're going to be using our solutions in really different ways. In terms of geography, there's a whole host of considerations that come with this. So regulations will be different, consumer preferences, the locations and languages, cross-border considerations, and then you have the behavior of the organization. So, for example, at what level of tech adoption are they at, right? Are they early adopters or fast followers or laggards? What is their capacity for change? Do we need to support them in some extra way, or is it going to be a difficult sale because of their capacity for change? And then their usage habits. How are they interacting with your solutions or solutions like yours? And then there's the psychographic or cultural values of an organization. So their motivators, values, and aspirations as a firm. So our product marketing team would make the argument that you need to layer both personas and business profiles to get a complete picture. And that's because when we build products, we build them for people, not companies. And when we sell products, we definitely want to approach people and not companies. At the same time, those people are, inextricably part of a business, and they're incentivized to make decisions on behalf of the business. So it's really important to layer both their personal motivations and the company's motivations. And then look at those things from several different perspectives, because we know that there's lots of players and considerations that are going to impact a sale. And so right now you may be looking at this and saying, I thought this framework was supposed to reduce complexity, not create this complicated web. But to clarify, I'm not proposing that we micro-target individual buyers from all of these different angles. That would be crazy. That would be impossible. So now we're going to talk about how we can actually reduce complexity and create a manageable framework that works. So what is a dynamic customer lens framework? So the old way to develop profiles was to pick a customer classification or two, like a functional role, right? And then maybe, profile companies by their industry. And then you would look at all of your customers through those two lenses, right? Max. But knowing that now we're dealing with such a wide range of players and motivations, and that a lot of them are sophisticated enough to come up with their own unique requirements, we have to move to something more modular. And so that is where these dynamic layered lenses come in. So this approach allows us to do two things. One is identify the buyer mindset across several variables, and two, build specific messaging for each of those variables that can be selected at will. And so we call these variables customer lenses, and they can be applied or removed depending on who you're talking to or who you're building for. So here are some examples of how we did it. It's really not rocket science. It takes a little bit of discipline and organization, but it's pretty simple. So we thought about the term lens in the most literal sense. It's like going to the optometrist and getting fitted for a new prescription. When you go, you sit down, the doctor puts some lenses in front of you and switches back and forth between the lenses. Sometimes they layer them for astigmatism. And then the doctor keeps switching back and forth and iterating until she finds the right fit. And here are our little cool customer lenses. And so this is the approach we wanted to take when talking to our customers. And so here are just a few examples of lenses that could apply to almost any business. But you should tailor them for your business. It'll depend on your products, your targets, your strategies, etc. So our framework is a little bit different than this. We had 7 different lenses that are relevant for our business, but that's what our team uses now to craft targeted messaging. So then for each of the customer lenses, we developed profiles. So here we have the tech adoption lens, for example. And then within that, we have 3 buyer profiles: early adopter, follower, and laggard. And then we can always, when we figure out what we're trying to accomplish and with whom, we light up the relevant lenses and then apply them all together and see what that means. So here's an example of what a profile looks like in action. So we have a 3-slide profile template here. Our true one is a little bit different, and I have scrubbed this for proprietary information, disclaimer. But basically it should be comprised of a few key elements. So we have our mission that we want to lead with. So for a early tech adopter, our mission is to inspire with exclusive innovation. Then we give a little bit of background on who they are and define them. Then we give a small bit of background on how decisions are made. So for example, with an early adopter, developers have a lot more say in a decision than in some other cases. Then we speak to their mindset, their growth mindset, what motivates them, their pain points and challenges, how we win with them, what messages will win and what will lose, and what we should definitely avoid with them. Another slide or piece of information that you should include is what are the solutions that are going to be most important to them or the business needs, right? So you could do, we like this framework: universal needs, their need to haves, their differentiators, want to haves, and the delighters, what they love to see and that we should lead with. And then you could do, any variety of verbatims. We find them really helpful just to provide some takeaways, some quotes. Sometimes we do word clouds. And I think it's really valuable for all the different stakeholders in different functions to see it in the customer's own words. So that would be the result of our customer lenses. Pretty simple. Let's see it in action. I have 2 scenarios. This first one is called Sales Takes Messaging into Their Own Hands. And I think all of us as marketers know this story already. So a salesperson, Alex, is working with the #3 apparel company in Europe and is being introduced to a decision team that includes the CFO, CTO, and 2 project managers from different geographic regions. The salesperson also knows that their tech stack is very old and difficult to change. How does he prepare for this meeting? So let's take a step back and think about what sales needs to do, what their function is, right? So they need to prepare for the meeting. They've got to be ready to ask the right questions, and they're going to need to customize messaging and marketing materials. So it's their job to customize their pitches. We understand that. And as we said before, B2B buyers have already done a ton of research, and by the time they get to this meeting, they don't want to see your generic stuff. They don't want to see your white papers. They want to know, how does this matter to me right now? Not just to my business and to my customers and all of that nuance, but also to me personally. And so therefore, it's understandable that sales will take a pitch deck that's, incredibly thoughtful and has been, really well prepared by marketing, and they will change it, and they'll change the slides, add slides, take out slides, and change messaging altogether. So, you know, it's a nightmare. But you don't always have to lose control of the message and positioning. You always will to some degree, but if you have a dynamic framework and a set of materials for sales, it not only makes their lives easier, but it improves the quality and the consistency of the message. So they can still choose from a set of messages and slot them in as necessary, and you can sound like one company, so that your messaging is the same, you know, on your website and in customer service and sales pitches, but at the same time, you know, making sure that the individual customer still feels heard and receives somewhat personalized messaging. So let's see how Alex used the framework to prepare for the meeting. So we know that the company is a mega enterprise, and we'll define that as, you know, a company that has over $10 billion in revenue annually. We know that from our customer profile about mega enterprises that they expect a really high level of servicing and support, and they need evidence of that support early on. So Alex should really bring several staff from PayPal to show our commitment. And so who does he bring? So if we look at our buyer function, we know there's going to be a CFO, a CTO, and some project managers. This means that this meeting is going to be about getting down to brass tacks. This is not going to be a high level like CEO meeting that's 15 minutes. This is probably going to be a deeper meeting with a lot of technical questions. Alex, in this case, should bring solutions engineers and relationship managers from each of the markets that'll be in charge of the account once the sale goes through. And the other thing Alex can do is figure out the materials to bring. So for these folks, maybe an ROI calculator and, you know, proof points or thought leadership, you know, nuggets from these regions, right, to show our expertise there. And then you have, you know, another lens, which is really, really important, which is the tech adoption level. So, you know, being a tech platform, and having so many solutions, there are many ways that you can approach this conversation. And with a laggard, you really don't want to come in with very scary, you know, future forward, complicated technology that's not going to fit within their tech stack. It's not that you shouldn't talk about these things, but you shouldn't lead with them. You got to talk about what they care about first. And so that is why you would never want to leave out this lens. So him having this profile will then help him, you know, enter with the right message. Scenario 2, product marketing builds a business case. So in this scenario, the sales organization is asking for a brand new tool related to fraud prevention based on the feedback from a few sales reps. They assume this premium cutting edge fraud product will be adopted en masse due to the ubiquity of fraud issues and concerns voiced by their customers. So how should the PMM, Anna, decide whether and how to build this business case, the business case for this tool? So Anna, her job is to size the addressable market, identify the right customer types to research, and then perform the analysis. In her case, we don't need to use every single lens, right? I mean, this is about being flexible and about simplifying as much as possible. So we know that the technology will make, you know, the assumption in this case that technology is industry agnostic, agnostic of geography. We don't need to get into buyer functions at this point. What we really need to understand is where the biggest needs are for this product. So instead, we'll use just these 3 lenses, which are customer size, business need, and tech adoption level. And so, you know, if Anna hadn't had this framework, she might have made her own assumptions, right? She could have under or overestimated the opportunity. And even when she went out to do research, she might have contacted the wrong customers because she didn't really have a sense for who this could be relevant for. Luckily, in this case, in this scenario, she does have a customer lens framework. And so she reads through it and she realizes that this business need is really not top of mind for all of our customers. It's only relevant for very, very large businesses, for those that encounter a high amount of fraud, and it's really only for early adopters because it's way too advanced for the rest of our customers. So now she can build a business case for this niche and evaluate the viability. So now you know how it can work, but how can you apply it to your business and actually get it to be adopted? This is the trick, in my opinion. There's 4 steps that I laid out. They're deceptively simple. They're actually pretty challenging, but so worth it. So first thing is bring in stakeholders for sprints. Sprints are always great. Creating documents on your own is never worthwhile, in my opinion. You need buy-in and you need insight. So I like to invite product sales, sales enablement, and marketing. Really anyone who's building for or speaking to your customers should be present. Like a select group of representatives. And then you have some thought starters, right? How do you identify these key lenses for your business? So you can ask questions like, who's your target customer? Do you need company profiles or individual buyer profiles, or both, or what kind? What or whom does a sale depend upon? And where can you find customer patterns? The second thing you can do is build a minimum viable profile template. So keep it really, really simple if you want it to get used. So what I mean by minimum viable profile template is the minimum amount of components that you can include in a profile to make it compelling and actionable. So think about, at the highest level, what product marketing needs to understand, what sales needs to understand, and leave it at that. And then the other thing to consider is, what information do you need to fill in these profiles and how will you get it? If they're really challenging, it's challenging information to get or difficult to validate, then it's better to just leave it off because you don't want to overcomplicate your life or anybody else's, or it won't get adopted. So then make the case for adoption. So back it up with research, right? Anytime you can show other, third parties validating it, or you have customer studies, or you can show the real pitfalls of failing to adopt a messaging framework that everybody uses. If you can show why the potential ramifications of everybody spinning off with their own messaging, then it really brings it to life, and you'll get buy-in from leadership. And then finally, make it easy to adopt and follow through. So make it actionable, create snackable materials and training. So create just enough, but not too many materials, or they will get lost. So define the key lenses and the dynamic profiles. Have a how-to guide, probably attached to the same document. Do some practice sessions with your stakeholders, and then do periodic reviews and iterate, because these things can go stale and then not be useful. So those are the tips, and that brings me to the end of the presentation. I hope that it wasn't too dry and that you really do use this. It can be really fun to get together with your teams and pull all this together. So leverage it across the org, across all of these different stakeholders, and feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn if you have any questions. All right, thanks everyone.